Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightbringers podcast. Today we will be talking about playable species, the Kodan. And I have two wonderful guests. They can hear you, by the way, Boots, as you kind of mumble to yourself.
You forgot to turn it off?
No, I don't need to turn it off. I turned it on so you could talk.
Man.
The beginning is just Boots going...
I was very quietly saying, I'm not going to distract you this time.
And you were right, because you didn't.
No.
You were a man of your word.
Yeah, that's what I am. That's what I am. I have one word,
Honor.
and it is boots.
Oof.
We have a fourth guest
Rest in peace to any of your essays you had in school. Oof.
I just wrote boots
Yeah.
on all my essays.
Different like fonts and different like italicized, boldened, underlined. It has different meanings.
It's like subliminal. Wow. Subliminal. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Bootsing. I don't know.
You know what's so great about British people? They're so
What's your shoe size?
Wait, what? What's great about British people? What?
They're so eloquent.
That's crazy, Boots. The bullying has already started. This is wild.
I think
Everyone, what's your shoe size? I feel like as friends, we should know each other's shoe size.
11 and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
11
a
and a half
10?
you too, Boots?
I'm shorty.
You're 10?
I'm 10, yeah.
You're turning 11.
Well,
can I be brave and honest? I'm a 7.5.
hey.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'7".
5'7". Okay. I'm
Yeah.
6'2".
I'm about Boots' height. Yeah.
I'm a lot taller than
you're
both
like
of you.
5'8".
I'm like on the cusp of 5'8", but every time I'm at the doctor, they're like, "You're 5'7". I'm like, but I thought I was 5'. Like, no, you're like
You don't
quarter.
round up. You're
like,
round up.
Yeah, they do not round up.
I don't do that. That's not how it works. Yeah, I'm 6'2". Although as you get older, you get shorter. So you know.
So you're now 5'2". So.
I might be 5'4".
Maybe.
Now.
Depends how my back goes. It's like leaning over. Lovely. We do have a fourth guest, mysterious Kodan, who's just like looking at you, glaring at the screen. Not quite Tom Cruise, Boots. I'm sorry, but
I feel like that's Kodan tonic coded.
It might be. It might be. That's right.
Kodan tonics. I've been using the Kodan tonics recently, actually, and they're combat tonics, so it works beautifully.
Yeah.
Or the bear helm, or the like crow helm, like all of that fun stuff.
They work well enough.
I create random looks sometimes when I'm, got 10 minutes and make some random creepy, horrible thing. I'm not saying crows and bears are creepy.
You know what's great about having Kodan as a playable race?
Species,
that they already revealed and said that's definitely happening, is that like Norn, they also have an elite skill there. They transform into humanoids instead.
That would be sick.
Can you imagine? That would be hilarious.
That would be like, and you can now blend into human society. Yeah, enjoy.
Oh god.
Get some discounts at some merchants or whatever.
That's right.
That's
what are we here
not the
today
worst
for?
idea in the world. So we have Kroof, we have Boots. Kroof, tell us what you do when you do it.
Oh, perfect. I was already talking. Hi, everyone. I'm Kroof. I stream here on Twitch, usually Thursdays through Sundays, playing things like Guild Wars 2, eventually Guild Wars 3. And we've been playing a little bit of Soulframe, which has been a lovely RPG as well. Highly recommend that.
Yes.
And you can also find me over on my YouTube at Kroof. Been posting some more videos there consistently throughout the weeks. And yeah, follow me everywhere on social media. I'm pretty easy to find. I don't hide. Thank you for having me.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Boots, good to see you. We've missed your face. I'm sure everyone has missed you as well. In the comments, please give Boots some love as well as he returns to us after.
When are you coming back to Cali?
Oh yeah, good question. Probably it's been like over a year, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Since you were there? Holy shit,
Yeah.
that's
I
quick.
think so. I'll take you to an actual good Mexican restaurant this time.
Please do. Okay. Yeah. So then I'm tomorrow. Sound good?
Yeah, I can wiggle that. I have work in the morning, but I can, after like 12, I should be able to be fine. Yeah.
Okay. See that. What? Yeah. So I'm Boots. I am not as easy to find online as Kroof. World of Enders on YouTube is my channel, even though I'm Boots, and yeah, do videos usually on Guild Wars 2 stuff, soon to be on Guild Wars 3 stuff.
Yeah.
I think my last video was a Guild Wars 3 thing.
Nice.
And what else? Yeah, what's Soulframe?
It is a fantasy multiplayer RPG that is developed by the same company for Warframe. So like Warframe is like alien sci-fi. They're making one about like fantasy, magic, and all that stuff. Very fun. I raged quite heavily.
Yeah, I'm
it's
in
slower combat, a little bit more paced, where it's like you can react and parry and.
I think you'd like
Warframe. I was basically just
run around
through.
Yeah.
When I think of Warframe, I think of running.
Yeah, it's not as fast paced as that. It's more explorable as well. You live in a world rather than you just like go to instances and do the things.
Yeah,
there are instances, but it is a very different game. But the combat and the combat is really, really fun. It's actually, I like the story. The story's lovely as well. It's really, really basic story.
I have a video of it on YouTube if you want to go give that,
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've actually seen that one. Yeah, pretty sure I have. It is a great game.
I do have a question for Boots though. Have you ever thought about rebranding all of your channels just to Boots?
Would that be hard? That sounds hard.
No, you just go into like your YouTube settings or your Twitch settings and you just change your name. Usually these systems will have name changes at least once a year for creators.
But what happens if people want to find World of Enders again?
You can just tag it into any of your videos, like in like when the YouTube tags, you can like in there go like World of Enders, Boots, Guild Wars 2. So the search engine will sometimes still connect you back to World of Enders.
You can make a video.
Yeah.
But
then I'm not going to get those comments from like 10, 12-year-old videos where a 25-year-old now types saying, I grew up on this when I was a kid. And it's so great to see you again.
Aww.
Yeah, okay, so no, I don't think I'm going to do that.
That's fair. We all have the reasons.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget to check out the podcast. At the moment, we're weekly. Next week, we're going to have, I would assume, the Asura reveal. We'll go through the blog post, much like we did last time. If you missed the last one, we did talk about the humans. And today's the Kodan. Next week will be the Asura. Then the week after, or after Gamescom, I think you were saying, Kroof, is going to be the whatever.
Yeah.
It's not going to be dwarfs, so...
Sadly. Probably not dwarves, probably not Tengu, which is my pain in my heart.
Lagos.
But think of it this way, Kodan are basically just big furry dwarves.
Yeah. Big furry humans.
No, big furry dwarves.
And big furry humans.
I guess when you think about it, humans are just big skinny dwarves.
And humans are just skinny, scrawnier Norn.
And the Norn are just big dwarves.
And the Norn are alopecia Kodan.
Whoa.
Wow. The Venn diagrams are overlapping.
You both did very well with that. I'm definitely going to be the one that's keep us on track today. I mean, that makes sense. Anyway, yes, check out the Lightbringers Guild Wars podcast. You can Google us. You can find us on all of your favorite audio places that you listen to things. You can also watch the video on youtube.com/JebroUnity. You can search for Guild Wars Lightbringers podcast as well. Please make sure you check us out. Check everyone's stuff out in the description below, as well as liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the things. It does help a lot with the algorithm, peeps. And yeah, we're going to talk about the Kodan today. We are going to go through the blog post. How long is it? It's actually got a beefy one.
It's a little bit beefier than the human one, I think.
That makes sense. Because with the human one, you just have to talk in a human voice. But when you're reading this one, you get to talk in a Kodan voice.
So obviously you're going to do that.
Oh, you have to.
Okay.
They wrote it in a Kodan voice. You have to read in a Kodan voice.
What do we think about this art, first of all? Really, really cool. Much like the human art we saw before and the other art concept art we've seen before. What do you think about this?
So good.
Yeah?
I like it a lot. Very furry.
Yeah. I think it's always been so interesting seeing the evolution of from any game from 1 to 2 to 3, how they take their different species. And with the Kodan, I'm so happy to see a good amount of variety. We have the far Shiver Peaks white furred Kodan and a bit of that lowland golden caramel colored fur color. So I'm very, very pleased with the art.
Also showed...
I like the Kodan's hat, right side. I like it a lot.
A lot of people have keyed into that hat. He's quite the dapper looking gentleman, quite distinguished.
I want that hat.
I love it. It looks like, is that a horn? Is that like a war horn on the side of it, or is that like a map?
Something like that, maybe.
Maybe it's a horn. Yeah,
it looks like a horn.
Yeah.
It does. It does look like a horn, something like that. Yeah, and then you've got the kind of grass, the kind of big leaves which are used to kind of shelter.
Yeah.
Some of that.
Maybe it's for people who are sad that there's not going to be char. They're like, maybe they just want horns, and then they drew a horn on.
I mean, maybe.
That's the only thing Kodan are missing, right? They're just missing horns when it comes to char.
And tails, very, very long tails.
Long
so,
tails. Yeah, but we haven't seen it. But I'm sure these bears have little stubby tails,
little fluffs, little wiggle.
Fluffs.
I would love that detail.
I mean, how would you not have that? They're bears.
That's true, but maybe they just evolutionarily they lost their little fluff.
Yeah, it's like high fantasy. Bears don't have tails.
They just have butts. They have bear
Just
butts.
Yeah,
They're flat.
Bear.
They have to go to Brazil and get their fluff back installed by a surgery.
Brazilian bear.
Yeah, a Brazilian bear lift, BBL.
Amazing.
BBL, yeah.
You've also got the two different body types here. I actually think it's something we haven't really talked about. I don't think they're going to have male or female selectors. I think you're going to have body types.
I think for the Kodan, I think that's just like a more standard way of character creator. But that is a good note to bring up. I'm really, really happy that we have a concept art of a more feminine looking Kodan with a very soft face. The space between the eyes to the nose to the mouth is not quite as great as it is in the more masculine looking bust that we see right above her. And I was really, really happy to see that, because we don't, in Guild Wars 2, see too much of that spectrum of masculine and feminine on the Kodan. So I was very happy with this concept art in that regard as well.
We don't actually. That's right.
Yeah. And much like the char, you don't have like a lot of the secondary features that you do on other races. Yeah.
Yeah, Kodan do not really have sexual dimorphism. They're just like usually one standard body type with various alterations with their face or hair and how they choose to represent themselves.
Fair. Okie dokie. Do we need to read? Oh, we should probably read the first bit. I'll just read the first bit. Playable species. Spotlight Kodan.
Voice. Hold on. What's going on? That's not a Kodan voice.
Just reading the title, man.
Yeah, that's not the Kodan voice, Jebro.
Voice.
Answer the cause, Kodan, Guild Wars 3. Okay. Greetings, good people of Tyria.
That's actually really good.
That's really good. Yeah, keep going.
Of ArenaNet's narrative team. As part of our series on the playable species of Guild Wars 3, we're giving or going deep on a species whose outsized presence. The thing is with Kodan is they're very slow.
They're very slow.
So if we do this, it's going to take too long.
Can you do Kodan on speed like coffee?
Yeah, give him a bump.
Whose outside presence is in
1, 2, 3. Not this.
We are the Knights of
We're going deep on a species, sorry. Wow. Whose outsized presence in our announcement trailer at Summer Games Fest may have caught your notice. Tyria's much beloved bearkin, the Kodan. While long-time Guild Wars 2 players may be well acquainted with their headstrong forebears on the Isles of Jamfir, the Kodan of Orion Golden Age are a unique case in the history of the species. Population called south to the wilds of Or, prompting a resurgence of belief in an otherwise faithless people. As you set paw onto Orion soil, that's nice, you too shall begin your journey, one that's sure to be retold by the fireside. But before you set off to make history, that made me think about the Jamfir Wilds map. When you sit around and thingy tells you a story before you go into the convergence, you'd best be acquainted with your own. Ooh.
So obviously, they're laying it a bit thick with the bear puns, which I appreciate. 4 bears.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's such 4 bears is such a good pun that they use it, I want to say 6 times in this.
I think so.
Really?
But maybe that's just like what the Kodan call them. They don't call them like, they would
is.
probably say ancestors as well.
No, 4 bears.
How 4 bears?
We can use synonyms, right?
No.
Right. Yeah.
Not when it's such a good pun.
But okay. And I don't think the pun is going to die out. I think it has such longevity that
our 4 bears will be okay. Anyway, so I think Kroof, it's you.
Yeah, there isn't much really else to. I mean, there's a location thing here.
I love the act of volunteering somebody else. You in the Hunger Games. You in the Hunger. Kroof should just go up, right? Yeah. But we have heeding the voice or embracing the silence. Originating in the far Shiver Peaks, the Kodan are, broadly speaking, a culture defined by their faith. Kodan worship Koda the Creator, a deity they believe to be the sole fashioner of Tyria and all the natural and magical life that inhabits it, devoting the whole of their civilizational effort in service of this Creator. The Kodan are among the most capable fighters on Tyria, ferocious, intelligent, and driven by unshakable conviction. I had to swallow. I have a lot of spit in my mouth. Per their belief, a direct connection exists between Koda and a blessed few among his tribes of followers, called voices, chosen tributes at Hunger Games, attuned to the mind, thoughts, and will of their creator. Guided by these leaders, the Kodan interpret the will of their god as a mission for the whole of their people, the duty to watch over all of Tyria and foster an enduring balance in the natural harmonies of the world. This connection is an almost universal feature of Kodan settlements across Tyria, with one notable exception, the Bearkin of the Isles of Janthir. Featured prominently in Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds, the Kodan of Janthir were brought to those fabled lands as a result of a notorious voice who abandoned her calling and rejected Koda. This population of Kodan would endure for centuries, carving out a new way of life unburdened by the faith that defined the contemporaries they left behind. But as any Kodan who has heard it themselves can tell you, the call of their god is powerful and compelling, even, and perhaps especially, among those who refuse to listen to it.
Okay, so Koda. Can we talk about Koda for a sec?
Sure.
I would love to. Yes.
So Koda is the god of the Kodan. And is he essentially the bear spirit in the Spirits of the Wild? Or is he something else?
No. I think Koda is something else. I was replaying Janthir Wilds, and they had referred to the process of waiting sorrow and her difficulty with the voice of Koda. Isgarin said that there were voices coming from the mists. So I think Koda is a spirit outside of the realm of Tyria, and actually perhaps a mist spirit.
Because in like the opening thing about Koda on the wiki, it's talking about the bear spirit. The bear spirit is first stood up and talked to Koda. It was one of the first spirits. Interesting. Okay, did you just say I can tell you?
This is like according to Kodan beliefs, Koda is a primal spirit who formed Tyria and the spirits in it. The spirits were untamed and some of them took physical form over time. So the Kodan were the first creatures that became like more...
Didn't Suwan form Tyria?
This is why we have like clashing...
Well, this is a god's thing. This is like a belief like, of religion rather than...
Right, but it sounds as though like there's a voice in their heads. So maybe it's more than that, though. Maybe there
could be like Koda is like the metaphysical god, and Suwan was like the flesh of Jesus in terms of Christian theism. Because Suwan was like a physical entity, but where did Suwan come from is another big question. But Koda has always been a force within the mists, so something that is more purely metaphysical than anything else we've seen in terms of the creation of Tyria.
Oh wow, this is
Got it.
this is nuts. Okay, this is really really cool. Actually, I've not read this before.
Yeah.
Like the
Coda
Coda
is quite
parts,
cool.
like they basically like Coda offered the bears like this deal, like you can become Codan and like stand up. So the bear, and like actually if you watch over the world you can have this gift, and if you don't, you remain as a bear. Like you literally remain as a bear. I thought they were just different, but like, I didn't know this. That's really really cool. And the voices that they hear spiritually interpret Coda's will, and the claws who in turn interpreted the voices' cryptic messages and carried them out while acting as intermediaries between the voices and the rest of the Kodan of their respective tribes, so that they become the mouthpiece, I would say.
I'd love to hear.
I guess. Or
So,
the translator.
did Waiting Sorrow talk about being the voice a lot? I didn't really get much of it. Did she talk about being the voice and what she heard in that time?
She didn't say what she heard. I believe she had mentioned that it was just too many voices and too much like stimulant, like overdrive with the process of her becoming the voice of Coda, where the energy through the mists became too much for her to handle, and it was only through the ascension was she able to push it away and reclaim balance within herself.
Interesting. So Coda isn't just necessarily one voice for the voices of Coda. It's
But you
it's very, we don't know a whole bunch of like hard detail of what the entity of Coda is, but I think that's why I'm super excited to see that in Guild Wars 3, this Codan that we're going to get to, which we'll probably mention in the next section, is not the lowland. They still have a connection to Coda, and this blog post really sets up the spirit and the image of Coda quite well.
okay. So should I continue?
Yeah, if you want
All
to.
right. Okay.
But hey,
So, heeding the
that's
voice
really-
or embracing the silence. Originating in the far Shiver Peaks, the Kodan are, broadly speaking, a culture defined by their faith. Kodan worship Coda the
oh,
Creator.
I think I just read that.
Really?
Yes, that's the one we just read.
You're right. Okay. A stirring
Read it if
passion
you want.
and a long journey.
There you
Echoing
go.
across Janthier, the call went mostly unheard by the Kodan who dwelled there, save for a chosen few. Steeped in a culture that roundly rejected the will of Coda and was fearful of ostracization, those who experienced the sudden and jarring renewed connection largely kept it to themselves, whispering of it only behind closed doors with those who had felt it too. An inexplicable pull towards a far-flung and mythic land called Or, a sense that some duty awaited them there. Many who felt this stirring refused to believe that it was real at all until the motions of the world confirmed it for them. With news of a great calamity erupting in Or's Tugra Basin, Tugra Basin, Tugra, the disaster was so mythic in scale that it prompted the renewed faithful among Janthier Kodan to publicly attest to their experience despite the risk. Coda's will was not only real, they claim, but clearly apparent. A call to the faithless of Janthier to renew their conviction in service of their natural balance with the world. Needed nowhere more than the storied lands of Or. This proved to be the catalyst for yet another schism amongst the Bearkin. Refusing to let their divine call to action go unanswered, those who heard Coda's beckon began a second migration, flanked by those inspired to follow. These chosen few formed the first seeds of Kodan settlement in Or, your forebears, as a Kodan player in Guild Wars 3. Now, I'm gonna lay the joke on you that I wanted to say.
Okay.
It sounds a lot like these Kodan are Bjorn again Kodan.
Jesus Christ. That's not bad, actually. It's pretty good. Bjorn, by the way, everyone, just in case you didn't hear.
Yeah, Bjorn again.
Very good. Very good. That was good. That was pretty good, actually. I'll say that was pretty good. Good job. Good job. So,
okay, so these guys are the Janthier Kodan who rejected Coda
Wait.
And then some generation later started hearing Koda again, or something that says to follow Koda down to Or. And they're like, I don't know, maybe. And then some sort of calamity happened there, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, totally. And now they're gonna go.
Yeah.
This is interesting because I think the thing that came to mind as you were reading that, especially about the voice as well. I wonder if this is something that, you know, the divine call and whatnot, we're going to see or hear things and like just kind of messages and stuff. Like just imagining what that story will be like for them, and very spiritual and kind of religious and very like belief driven, but also maybe some kind of trepidation about whether or not this is real. Yeah, like a questioning of like faith maybe as they go through, but even though they've gone and done the thing, because there is still that, right? Like people who believe in gods, whatever gods, they always do go through like this kind of, is this real? Because there's so much crap that happens in the world. And actually, the Kodan are kind of responsible for some of the stuff in the world because of the spirits. Because I was reading in the wiki, which is really interesting, by the way, if you've not done it. There's something about the fire spirit and how they're meant to guide these spirits, but they only told the fire spirit to destroy things that should be destroyed, rather than guiding it in a nurturing way where it can be peaceful or whatever. I'm not saying it was necessarily violent all the time, but it sounds like, you know, they were like fire, destroy, bad, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. And Koda was like displeased by that because they didn't guide it properly. So it's really interesting that they're still learning how to do the thing. So what I'm wondering is maybe if we have like, if Kodans have like a spirit that like as a race, like as a playable species, where you have this spirit that you may nurture or something. I don't know if it's like that specific to ones, or if it's this big spirit god thing. I don't know. I was just a thought.
I would hope at this point that they would have assigned a new voice and to have that structure again, because they would need one. They need that two-pronged leadership, usually in standard Kodan society, not so much with the lowland Kodan. But you have the voice and you have the claw. So I would hope at this time, whoever, in regards to the Guild Wars 3 story, 100 years before Guild Wars 3, whoever like really heard that call and the message of Koda was maybe able to acquire the title of Voice of Koda and really have that strong connection through the mists. And maybe being in Or facilitates that better, as it's an extremely magical charged area, which was also the starting point of the gods coming through the mists. So perhaps there is a bit more of that direct connection with like a Voice of Koda and a claw. But it also still leaves room for maybe even some of the Kodan who were their supporters who came down here, because it doesn't say that only people who heard Koda came. It said the people who heard and people who were inspired. So maybe those who were just inspired still are kind of like, oh, I don't know, like it just seems like this is the land that it is, but we're here to help out anyways. So we could have a bit of variety.
You think that they are like, there was something else, I don't think this aligns timeline wise, but I was thinking, are the Kodan coming to Or as well because the humans are there and they're new and they want to also help guide them?
It doesn't sound like that so far.
Doesn't sound. I just wondered about that. Because they're joining like the guilds, right?
Yeah, humans would have been here for 700 years at least.
Yeah.
In Kantha specifically. I don't know how long they've been in Or, but
so it basically sounds like the Kodan were a very religious society until the Janthier Wild Kodan broke off and were like, I'm rebelling.
F this.
I'm done. F this anymore. You
they
guys
had to leave.
And then their children, some of them are like, I'm going to rebel against you and become religious again.
They're like, wait, there's a stronger purpose here. We have to heed it. And they do say a mythic calamity, which we have actually already heard of before in another blog post. And I believe it has to do with one of the great spirits of the Vale ended up dying or was killed in some manner in Or.
Kugra.
Yeah, in Tugra Basin.
Oh yeah.
So it's always fun to see that a lot of these storylines are still connecting to the Veil, and it seems like Guild Wars 3 is going to have a hyper focused storyline, which I'm very, very pleased to see, about the Veil and how it is interacting with Ur and just the history of Ur as a land itself.
You know that maybe that's the, because actually let's read the next paragraph first, and then I'm going to ask a question. So Jebro,
Is there anything
go
else?
ahead.
Is there anything else you want to talk about here? Because there might be like, is there anything else?
Let me see.
The disaster. So,
I mean, they said 4 bears again. That's good.
And I also will say that it's quite interesting that I wonder, this might have something to do with in terms of the lore and the understanding of the Veil as to why we never heard of this until now in Guild Wars 3.
yeah.
The Lowland Kodan were very far up north. So I wonder if the actual written word of the information of what happened in the Veil and to the Veil reached that far north, and that's why they knew to go down there. Or if it was just some like mysterious voice that people started hearing. Because if it was actually the information was able to get that far north, then it's like the information of the Veil should have been everywhere.
They say like a divine.
It says
like,
with news of a great calamity erupting. So it does sound like they heard a voice, and then it was confirmed with news of the great calamity happening.
Yeah, which kind of makes the story of Guild Wars 3 a little bit like why we have never heard of this Veil magic in Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2. It's not the biggest and hardest pill to swallow, but it is like a little bit of like
available anymore.
It
seems like a big event to not remember.
Both.
Wait, what did you say? What did you say?
All right, so moving on.
No, what did you say? I need to know.
No, you don't.
Why is it rude?
No, it was a very
rude.
masterful pun. Yeah.
I need it now. I need it.
He said that's just why it's unavailable now.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay.
Very good. Love it. Excellent.
But yeah,
Keep them coming.
it just makes it's the function of this story being placed so far in the past. We might have a couple of those, like, it doesn't trip up the story, but you like stub your toe on it a little bit.
Okay. Fair. The Orient, unless we find out about these, because they are adding a new maps and places in Ore, so unless we start to find these things in Guild Wars 2.
Oh, I have no doubt the new map will introduce like remnants of the Veil.
So I think that's what
it's
they're
kind
going
of
to
like
do.
you have to retroactively kind of do it, but whatever.
It's good. They might do it in, they might even do it in Guild Wars, right? Because they're still adding content and dungeons and stuff, so they may even do it there.
I love that.
I think they'll
That would be really
I think they're
smart.
going to do it between both games to really keep it consistency going through. Maybe.
You could have fractals of literally the stuff that's going to happen in Guild Wars 3, just as a spoiler.
You could
That'd be
actually.
wild. Okay,
Yeah.
the Orion Kodan and the Veil. The first of the southbound Kodan reached Ore over 100 years before the start of Guild Wars 3. They felt an immediate conviction that they had arrived at their destination. Pardon me. They sensed a land ailing the way one smells sickness in a loved one before it's spoken of. I like the wording of that. Palpable pain radiating from the natural magical world, but what was its cause? As the Kodan continued their exploration of the region, the environment exuded something else entirely. Beauty! Surrounded by the majesties of the Veil. The range of breathtaking magical creatures that lived in Ore, the arriving Kodan were certain that they had interpreted Koda's call correctly, and that his will was to see this land healed and protected. This certainly prompted the founding of a permanent settlement in northwestern Ore. The Orient Kodan felt an immediate kinship with the Veil Wardens, still young in their mission to protect the Veil's magical creatures, but that sense of fraternity, was not immediately returned. Interesting. Fresh off their originating tragedy and highly insular, the Order was not trusting of outsiders and refused to open their ranks to the Kodan Ore. Anybody else sorry. I was gonna say it's not two R's. I thought it was the Kodan or the Kodan or anybody else for many years. Though early friction and clashes led some among the Kodans to doubt the call that brought them to awe, the ethos they shared with the Veil Wardens would over time grow into one of the Order of the Veil's deepest and most enduring alliances. Good. Good explanation. Nice and.
I have a question about the Veil Wardens.
I have an answer. I don't know. I'm not writing the story, but
I'm-
I'll give it my
I'm
best
also
shot.
here.
Yeah,
the Veil
Jebro and I will
Wardens-
try our best.
No, I'm just
Order of the
here.
Veil
I didn't say I've got an
Wardens-
answer. I'm just being here. So just don't
Order-
include me in that.
The Order of the Veil Wardens
Yeah.
are the oldest guild or they protect the
first
Veil
guild.
spirits.
Yeah,
The first guild, yeah.
Mhm.
So therefore the oldest. Correct?
that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
which I might say is interesting. As an aside, they have Veil Wardens as the guild, but they also say Order of the
Yes.
Veil.
Yes. Maybe it's just
It could be like synonymous, like
Just
Well, my question is
proviso.
this. So it's long before the other guilds came in there, long before, I'm guessing before some of the other races like humans come in there. Is it possible that the fourth race we're talking about is the protectors of the Veil that were the Veil Wardens before more races came to help them out, like the Kodan?
I think the Veil Wardens are human made, aren't they? As
Are
a
they?
guild.
the Veil Warden as a guild is human made.
Yeah.
I believe
okay.
so.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the story
Yeah.
goes is the humans saw the conflict and they went to Melandru and they went to Dwayna, and then Dwayna gave them the knowledge of signet making to harness
okay.
magic, and then they're like, awesome, with that we can form our guild and protect and watch over this land. That being said, I am under the belief that the fourth, hidden race, the new thing that we're going to experience, is going to be tied perhaps to the Veil in some way. I
One
think
of the
it would.
magical creatures that we're trying to protect.
Yeah, I think there could be some cool humanoid, spectral mist, fae creature that is the fourth playable species, and it would make the most sense lore-wise as to why we never see them again. But that's what I'm going with. So I think you might have something there. I think they will be integral to the guild at least.
Okay. And do you think they're going to be part of the guild? I guess we have to. Yeah, they have to.
Yeah,
Good.
any
Okay,
playable
course.
species is going to be part of the guild.
For this one, at least. For
I
this
mean,
game.
we
Future
did-
expansions, we might not need that.
We did talk, well, because there was a hint, wasn't there? We were reading a blog post a while ago where there was a hint that we wouldn't necessarily be a member of this guild forever. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I
The
mean,
wording did say
it did
it
feel
was
like
like
that.
at first. The Veil
Yeah.
Wardens.
You gotta join other guilds, right? Like people are gonna invite you to stuff.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, but also we don't know whether or not this guild kind of. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart. I mean, maybe in a story sense,
It's
but
definitely
like,
on its waning legs, apparently.
It already.
Yeah.
I think that it's like this story could be we're trying to get it built back up, and then there's maybe some momentum, but then something catastrophic happens, and then the Veil Wardens are kind of like fractured and like no longer a thing. But that's why you become just the Order of the Veil, where it's not so much an actual structure. It's maybe like the Order of Whisperers or something, where it's a bit more widespread and different camps or whatever. I don't know, but it's very, very peculiar.
Uh-huh. The other
There's
thing I
some
wanted
ways
to
you
ask
could go.
about,
Yes.
is in this thing that they were just talking about, the Kodan blah 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 blah. Somewhere in this paragraph they said that led the Kodan to build a stronghold in Northwest Or.
I was just about to boots you went twinning.
So does that what is that? Does that mean starter zone for Kodan? Does that mean if you pick your race, you're in a different area? Does that, what does that mean exactly?
Where is
I mean,
Northwest
obviously it means there's
Or?
going to be Kodan
Yes.
strongholds and towns up there. Fine.
To
So does
talk
that
about
mean
your
that-
point, I will say that has been an element that I have been thinking of. And I do hope that Guild Wars 3 has you starting out in some different region of Or, depending on your playable race and your playable species.
Right.
I would not hope that they go to the extent of Guild Wars 2, where it's a huge fractured storyline with multiple different paths you can choose. But I think that is an element of MMOs that when a game has that, it makes it immensely more replayable. When it's
Exactly.
too linear and every single character you create starts in the same exact point in the same exact story mission, it does feel a little repetitive and maybe
Yeah.
does not encourage me to play other characters per se. So I've thought about that, and I would like Guild Wars 3 to have that
Like
personally.
a small intro area for each race, like within their own.
Yeah.
Species.
Where my ideal hope is like each playable species, you have a settlement of like the Order of the Veil, where you have
Right.
like your point of contact. It goes through like the intro stuff, how to control your character, combat, and all that stuff. And then very soon after that, your first mission is to go to the actual Veil Warden base somewhere else in Or. So that's what I like to see.
Yeah, I don't mind that in Guild Wars 2. It's like the first 10 levels are.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. But
Actually,
then again, we might
it's like
not
the
even
first
have
30 levels in Guild Wars 2
But
in terms of
then,
the story.
It's really only the last.
It's whether or not that's conducive, and also
Once
is
you get the orders.
is going to be the scope of what Guild Wars 3 is like in terms of an MMORPG as well, because we know that they're not necessarily going to make it in the same ilk.
Yeah, they might not even have levels. So
I mean, it might be armor and
They
gear that
should.
levels, right? I mean, that's right. I mean, that's something that is happening a lot in different games. So, like, ore-wise,
Yeah,
Northwest. So they're
regionally,
in
this is
Mount Heroes
interesting.
Deep, apparently.
Northwest.
Yeah, they said northwest, which is not where Tugra Basin is. Tugra, or at least there is in Guild Wars 2, there is a monastery of Tugra in Straits of Devastation, which would be the northeast of or just like the most north of Or. So while they've mentioned Tugra Basin quite often in these blog posts, it seems like the Kodan are not going to have their settlement necessarily be at least in Guild Wars 2's hint of where Tugra might be at.
It could be in that little lakey area that's not revealed, right to the northwest of Ruins of Or.
Yeah, when you go in underwater in Guild Wars 2, of course the scales of the two games will be vastly different. But even in Guild Wars 2, there's a very good amount of
Ruins.
ore underwater.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's not all been raised back up. I think the Strait of Malcor is like. I mean, do we have a map of ore before Guild Wars? Well, we must do, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, in Guild Wars 1 you can see ore, and it's just like very island-esque, small.
Yeah, there's a lot of ruins. Actually, I'm actually going to go in the game and just have a look.
And I think with how big Ara might be and how big Ara is in Guild Wars 2, it would lead me to believe that in Guild Wars 2 we've only risen like the upper peaks of what Or actually was in its golden age.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because the city of Ara is just a city. It's a floating city above a giant lake, probably the Artesian waters or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to pinpoint exactly where the Kodan would be.
Sure.
I mean, regionally and geographically, it would be very hard and different. And also the scale difference of the two games is probably going to be quite
I think you got it.
significant.
It's right there.
The Jinx Isle.
Yeah, that's where they
that's
are.
the furthest northwest part, I guess, we can go to, other than the Vista over here, and then we've got more of the ruins down here, like below Drowned Brine. What's that called? Oh, I can't see it because I've got a thingy on. Interesting. Yeah, there is a lot. Like, we don't know.
Are we going to see any Giganticus Lupicuses?
No, they're all dead.
Even in 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, they died out like 100,000 years before Guild Wars, before the gods left. It was actually, I think it said that the first rising of the dragons is what caused the death of the Giganticus, or there's some event that caused them, like in ancient history.
Okay. That's a shame.
This island is an event, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to like get in there from a different way.
Because this is the Inquest. Is it the Inquest? Yeah.
Are you in game right now?
Yeah.
You're not watching the stream?
Yeah.
I'm watching my stream. I'm very low.
I'm in game on the Jinx Isle. Like, just having. I wonder if there's. I want the event to spawn so we can see if we can go in there.
Okay, hold on. Let's look at the land masses. And does any of the land masses of ore look like a bear?
I knew you were going to say that.
I don't think.
Wait.
I wonder if I'm almost
Okay.
certain that they did not write or have any inkling that the Kodan were in ore when
Of
they made
course
Guild Wars
not.
2. They did not. The Asura, though, they did, which is the fun
Oh.
part.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, they did.
Tell us.
Well, there's Radapatem, which is
Right, okay.
I think near Mount Maelstrom or something, or in Mount Maelstrom. But in the Straits of Devastation, it's like an area in the most east part of the map. I think it's called Lightfoot Path or Lightfoot Passage. It's like a natural area where you can get a bunch of MOAs and juvenile ranger pets. And at the very top of it, there are Asuran settlement ruins
Wait, where?
in the Straits of Devastation. It's like Lightfoot Path. It's like the most east part. It's like you go into this small tunnel and there's like this big open like cavern area. It's very pretty and there's juvenile moas and spiders and stuff. It's jungle-esque.
Okay.
At the very top, Asuran settlements.
Okay. So we've got Kodan in the northwest, Asura in the northeast.
Mhm.
Humans will be south.
Maybe in Tugra Basin.
Hmm,
Or
okay.
actually, probably being closer to Ara. And if Guild Wars 2 is any indicator, maybe the city of Ara was floating more south of what we know or to be compared
Yeah.
to like the Straits of Devastation.
Okay.
What was the place you said?
Guild Wars
Sorry.
1.
Is it called Lightfoot Path? Hold on. Let me.
You said east, didn't you? Not west.
Yeah, east.
Oh yeah. I went the other east.
Let me tune into your stream.
There it is, Lightfoot Passage down there, where you get the
Oh, there. Oh.
And
Is that the one?
Lightfoot. Maybe the Asuran could be called like Lightfoots or like Lightfeet. That's their like
Yeah.
social
Mm.
nickname.
Hobbits.
Yeah. I was thinking like hobbits in a way. I was like, yeah. But I've been spending more time in ore, which has been very fun because it's such a vanilla part of Guild Wars, but it's so important to Guild Wars 3 now that I have such like a renewed interest in it. You're going the wrong way.
Am I? Wait, where am I going?
Yeah, you go south. It's like towards the
Yeah, I went way
bridge.
too far.
It's like towards the bridge, and then you go left. You turn left.
I see.
There's a little hole.
We're all watching Jebro.
Yeah. And we're on a
this
delay
one- this
too,
one
so
here.
there should be.
This one here.
Yeah, that's one passage.
Oh. I can't mount.
I think it's one way in.
Oh no, I can. Oh, the pack. No, the visual area. In here.
Yeah. If you go right,
Oh.
Go right.
there's
Yeah,
a
the other right.
passage further in.
The other right.
Oh
So,
wait,
yeah,
I didn't get.
the
Oh,
delay-
that right.
yeah, there's
that
another
right.
passage.
Through and then.
Has anybody caught this? Because I know the Radapatem is so close that geographically it would make sense. In Radapatem, there's also certain artifacts that say Orion rubbings, and a rubbing is where you have to have an imprint of some
Oh, is that what
hard
rubbing
thing.
is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and so the Asura had to be there to make a rubbing of some type of piece of art or texture. Go all the way up to the top
Up to the
in
top.
Lightfoot Passage.
Okay. Oh, I'm getting there.
So the Radapatem, Radanovis.
There's Lightfoot Passage.
Here?
Looking forward
Yeah.
to Radatata.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And a certain structure.
There you go. Which is
Ah.
definitely not just acid reuse.
Astrius?
Asset reuse.
Oh, Asterius. Oh no, I don't think this is asset reuse because it's the
Okay.
only Asuran architecture in this entire map, I believe.
Okay.
That's cool.
Hidden away. Maybe
I can't see
maybe they
anything.
weren't like they weren't cave dwellers per se, but they like kept to the cliffs and the mountains, which is kind of what we would know the Asura to eventually be, which are very deep subterranean race.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, now that Asura are definitely in ore, I'm happy to attribute this to definitely being an old Asuran architecture thing, but I do feel like when they first created this, it was asset reuse.
I don't think so. I
I've
think
never
with the
seen this before,
I
though.
think with the item of the Asuran Orion rubbing of an it wasn't also like the Asura went there and made a new rubbing. It was an ancient imprint
Okay.
of a material. So I
Okay.
think they did have an idea that the Asura would be at
I
least
mean, yeah, they're
around
everywhere,
ore, but I think that as they continued, they just wanted the Asura to be more of a prominent species. So it was a very easy transition into Guild Wars 3 to making them more of a mainstay.
yeah, fair enough.
But I
Mm,
do think that they had an idea that they would at least be, as I said, around ore.
nice.
Yeah, because I guess why not, right? They
Yeah.
have bases all over Tyria, kind of.
But yeah, underground mostly.
Yeah,
Okay.
subterranean.
Sick. That's cool.
And Straits of Devastation is technically ore. So
Yeah,
period.
Mm.
and I think
Oh,
the
that's right.
The
last.
bay is just
is.
underwater. So
It is.
if this is fully raised up, the entirety of Straits of Devastation is just a part of ore.
I mean, ore is like,
Right.
yeah, around probably here and then back up. Like, there's a big,
Yeah.
like, the outer parts. Yeah. Nice. Thanks for that. That's cool. Nice. Lovely.
I wonder if we're gonna get to see
Oh.
Scavenger's Causeway.
We're going to get to see a lot by the sounds of it.
I hope so.
If the game is mostly featured in ore, like, it's going to be. There's going to have to be a lot of it. That's the thing,
It's
right?
just-
Yeah.
Okay. We got one more paragraph. Who wants to
Okay.
read it?
I can.
It's one of you two.
Okay. We could both do it if you'd like. I think
Whatever
you're
you want,
going on.
Boots. Whatever
Okay.
you want.
Yeah, but one word at a
Um,
time. Let's do it. The
Orion.
Kodan.
Damn. Dad, really? Why? We're just trying to have fun.
Just let us do it.
Oh, you can do what you want. You can try. I'm just not going to be able to follow it.
No.
I don't think big people are going to be able to follow it.
I will read. I'll read the first two paragraphs, Boots, and then you read last stuff.
Okay.
The
you go.
Orion Kodan of today. A century deep into their grand experiment to reclaim their connection to Koda, the Orion Kodan find themselves at a fork in their path. The Veil Warden's mission is faltering. The conviction that carried their forebears south is dwindling with each passing generation. And all the while, the world around them is rapidly changing. The natural balance they were called to protect, crushed beneath the wheels of progress, the Maven writes. So when the long insular Order of the Veil at last opened its ranks and began to recruit, the Kodan were, of course, among the first to answer. As a Kodan player, you are one of them, swearing yourself to the Veil Warden banner as your own interpretation of Koda's will. Your forebears came to this land to carry out their divinely appointed duty as Tyria's guardians. Devoting your life to the Order is your way of picking up their torch. How you fulfill your duty to the guild is as unique as the wardens who make up its ranks.
And here we find ourselves, as one attuned to nature. You know well that change is the only constant. The ore of today is not the ore of your forebears. Though many Kodan have long kept their first and only major settlement, a whole world awaits beyond its bounds. A bustling intersection of old and new, progress and tradition, where all guilds abound and a mosaic of ideologies, species, and histories collide. Many a bearkin before you has left the confines of the Northwest for reasons of economic, spiritual, or personal. Whatever your own beliefs, your dedication as a Kodan. When they say the Northwest, is that still the Northwest
Same
of
place.
Ore, or?
Oh,
Yeah, probably.
Okay, because Janthir is also in the Northwest.
I would say it's more like, depending on where you are looking at the map, like directly north.
Yeah. Whatever your own beliefs, your dedication as a Kodan to the Order of the Veil comes first. Protect the spirits and the lands they call home. Everything else is secondary. But be wise. The company you keep has a way of keeping you. Like Ore itself. Wait, that sounded very ominous. Like
I know.
Ore itself, you stand at the
a few
meeting
things
place
for
of
that.
history and possibility. Go forth, cub.
Wait,
Awaits.
maybe the Veil Wardens are evil.
I was going to
Yeah, maybe
say,
they're
I mean,
evil.
like, if you're
Yeah.
going to be a Veil Warden, you still have to work within the confines of a guild, right? Because there's the structure of a guild. So, like, there
you
is
have
going
to
to be
like sign
orders
on.
and things
Oh,
you
they're
do.
just like the Wizard's Tower. Like you're
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there might be confliction, like they may be conflicted in what the veil says they must do versus their own inner voice of who they should follow in terms of like a religious calling.
Oh, maybe the Veil Wardens 100 years ago incepted the Kodan to come down there, and it's their voices telling them to come.
Oh, they were channeling through the mists.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting. Actually, I don't know if that is the truth, but that actually will happen. But that is an interesting story device of like someone tapping into the mists to like influence someone or something. Because like the gods travel through the mists. The mists are like a portal or an avenue to like get to certain places or people. So
yeah, and isn't it a little convenient that
the cryptists do it?
Exactly. But I was just gonna say, isn't it a little convenient that the Kugra catastrophe happens just after these Kodans first heard possibilities of their need down in North?
That's true. The timing.
I'm getting many
maybe
ideas.
Someone in the maybe the Veil Wardens may have created a little catastrophe.
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe. But also, like, what if the human gods are actually Koda as well from another before they came? I don't know.
No, before they came.
No, but like, you know, I mean, they've got the power to take people to another place. I mean, you know, gods
in the
from
mythology,
other planets.
In the world of Guild Wars, I believe that land of Zoteka is a mythology, and that is a land of gods, not just human gods, but various gods. So maybe
it's powerful entities. I think so.
Yeah.
I still adhere to the belief that the human gods are essentially planeswalkers and are just beings that, I mean, I think they were part of a human race. Maybe they got some sort of spark at like planeswalkers and became very, very powerful, and then they became gods, and are able to planeswalk. But yeah, I think it's very possible. But otherwise, maybe they're not. Maybe they're just, you know, entities of magic and decided to. They go. I still think they go from world to world, getting more magic or trying to find more magic. And I think one of the places they went was the old human world, kind of ruined it by accident. And then was like, okay, I guess you're worshiping us.
Coming up with a whole story right now.
There is, I mean, even in the human section, I felt like they were talking about the humans' origin world a little bit more like tongue-in-cheekly than they have in the past, where they were like, humanity and the gods fled from their world due to some like not well understood conflict of some kind.
Yeah.
So they could, like, the gods could be the catalyst for a lot of these like difficulties within these different realms, or depending on where they originally came from, if it is Zoteka, you know, there was a whole conflict within that realm of like the old gods, the ancient gods, against the newer pantheon of the gods that is like in mythos of the actual Zoteka expansion of Utopia, and also within the world of Guild Wars. But
yeah, I just kind of see the Planeswalkers as being like a party of adventurers who go from world to world and just loot it and then leave.
I really look at the gods as like they were a part of a greater civilization of some like.
Yeah.
It's not so much like a species. It's like you have acquired a certain amount of power, therefore you become accepted into this exclusive club. And whatever happened in the past, they're now like the remaining 6 or some kind. And now they're like the top dogs of the food chain here. So they just planeswalk around, as you said. Like, let's just go over here now, I guess.
So pulling it back to like the Kodan.
Oh yes,
the Kodan. Koda could be a god, perhaps.
Maybe yes, but
probably is
specifically as a player. There was a part here where it says, and I've got an idea of how we may start out. Though many Kodan have long kept
the fact that Cormyr could become a god. Sorry. Means that I think it's true. They can just it is just people that got a lot of. They're not necessarily a different entity. It's just entities that received a lot of power in some way and were able to do other things.
Yeah. I mean, Melandru is like a tree spirit.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Grenth is a demigod.
exactly.
I think we are going to start off as Kodan on our way to join the Veil Guardians.
Yeah.
From
probably.
from this place, the major settlement. If we're gonna do a whole like area where we start and in species in different places, I think what we'll end up doing is that we start as a Kodan, and I don't think it's going to be necessarily that long, but it could be just like, you know, as our journey to, because we're in Northwest Or, it's not like we're a million miles away, so it's possible. And then we kind of have our journey towards becoming a Veil Guardian. Either that, or that's kind of the intro to what your character may be. Of like, you start in this small town, then you go to the thing, you join the stuff, and maybe you become like, you know, you have to go through testing or something. I don't know.
Granth is already around at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that means the whole Malcor thing already happened.
Yeah, probably.
So
Malcor's probably dead, right?
Yeah, he leaped.
He's leaped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He leapt.
He leapt, but that's northwest of Or, so maybe this is very important to the Kodan in some way. Maybe Malcor was a Kodan.
Hey. It's for horses. But I think that it probably isn't, but we'll have to see.
I mean, it's a 50-50 chance at this point.
I mean, yeah. There are probably a bunch of humans. But then again, humans have been in Or longer than the Kodan have, so they probably made a bunch of different settlements in different regions.
I mean,
Beaver, I mean, we see Malcor's ghost, but it's our interpretation of what he looks like. Yeah, it's just, you see ghosts the way you want to see them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's how ghosts work.
In the world of Guild Wars.
Well, maybe. I mean, you know, in our heads, you know, if we're creating it, sure.
But to Jebro's point, I do hope that the game is wise enough to understand how important it is to have a bit of differentiation between your playable species and starting out. I think it just creates a little bit more of a dynamic gameplay experience. But I really don't believe they're going to go as heavy-handed as they did in Guild Wars 2. I think they saw how difficult it was. And it was Guild Wars 2, I felt like, was more about volume over like, it was quantity over quality, I would say, where they had so many different branching paths, which was cool and novel for the time, but I don't think actually created a compelling storyline that they could see through to the end.
Yeah, I mean,
the branchiness was also inverse, right? It wasn't the branching that people think of when they think of a single player video game where you you have a crazy outcome at the end because you chose all these different things, or like Disco Elysium or something like that.
Yeah.
It was an inverse pyramid, right? Like you had a lot of choices at the start that eventually chunk led you to the same destination.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might do a similar thing here too, because I don't
think so.
No, you don't.
No, I think we're actually going to experience ultimately the player character. I also don't think we're going to have more than like 2 to 4 voices that we can choose from in Character Creator. I think they will create the player character as more of a voiceless protagonist who the world and its story happens around them and we are a spectator within this world. Because I think they're really setting up that we are a soldier within a guild that is on the outs, and they're really minimizing us to the point that
I feel that that's probably a smart idea not to be the commander again.
Yeah.
But
and I think because of that, they're going to, no matter what species you're going to play, I would love for the first few missions to be unique to that species, but very quickly it gets homogenized into a very linear storyline.
You want a linear storyline, like completely linear?
I'm going to say yes, but with the caveat of within that storyline, there are moments where you can choose, like, I'm going to go on this mission with this person, or I'm going to decide to go, like, ultimately you have 2 branching missions. Like, do you want to go to the dungeon or do you want to go fight through this valley? But they ultimately lead to the same thing. But it's not going to be 5 races bunch of different story paths that connect. It's going to be like a couple story path differences depending on the species, and then they all connect and they have the same branching choices that you can go through.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I want. I'm not sure if that's what I want. I'm not sure if I want something more branchy, more choice to it.
Also, you may want something that you haven't had yet.
Good point. Yeah, maybe I don't want this. There is no story. The story happens around you rather than being presented to you.
I think it's also because in each blog post, they are saying, when you create a human, when you create a Kodan, you are a member of the Veil Warden. It's like no matter who you're picking, you are a Veil Warden.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe it's going to be much more linear.
Yeah. Okay. You start off as a Veil Warden. That's how the story starts.
I mean, you could be a Veil Warden, but also a Veil Warden that is in training. So you leave your home to go to train, and then you kind of just come together with the other race species very quickly, because you're just all together in this place where you are exploring and learning, and you kind of because we don't know where we start within the Veil Wardens, do we? Like what in terms of our level of rank or anything? I don't think that's something we've known about. But there is like some inference of like maybe that we have been there for a bit. So I don't know about that. My thoughts on that.
Well, at least with this Kodan post, it seems as though you haven't been with them that long, I don't think.
Yeah, even in the human one, it seems like very early on. So I wouldn't mind saying like the very first, when you create your character, you have a small storyline where you leave your home of whatever species you are, depending on the region, and then you go and you become the Veil Warden very quickly.
Yeah, I would like that as well. I think it would be a good way to have that small starting area with your species, and then I think that would be quite cool. The thing is about this blog post is that, you know, we no matter which one we've read, it always normally opens up a lot of ideas and thoughts and theories and curiosity. So rather than just giving it to like, this is who you are, this is what it's going to be, because they're still building the game, but they've got their idea and their story, and they're not necessarily going to change a lot of that. But it's still very much in the realm of, here's some bits, do the detective work, and see what you think and feel about it as you kind of go. I like that it's so it's defined in ways, but also it gives you the ideas of what could it be this, could it be that. I think these blog posts are pretty good. Actually,
I'm glad that they don't say as a Kodan, you are a Veil Warden and you will eventually betray your master. And
exactly,
spoiling it,
right?
Like, get ready. But and to WB's point in chat as well, the reason why I'm kind of going down and altered my mindset with how they're going to do the story and also with character customization and the voices is because we have been given confirmation that they're going to be adding more playable races. And I think a major difficulty with adding playable races, on top of all the mechanical stuff with armors, it's also player voices and voice acting. I think if you have a somewhat more, I'm not saying true silent protagonist, but a game that's not focused on your character, where you'll have bits of dialogue here and there, but it's more so you have a standard 4 different voice types that you can choose from, how we see in other modern games.
4 different, but hold on a second though. For the different races, you can have different voices.
Not necessarily.
You're telling me an Asura and a bear are going to have the same voice?
Yes. Because they just add like filters and different modulations.
Okay.
I think like
it's
what
gonna
ultimately.
Be a voice.
I don't mean the literal same voice, please. No.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think if anything, they will get like for the player character at least, a voice cast of 4 people, 2 masculine voices, 2 feminine voices, and then depending on the species that you play, it will have modulation depending on what species it is. That would make it very easy for them to implement things like a Tengu or a Largos, and they make a different voice filter for that species to give it that flair.
I don't know if I like that.
I think it's the only way.
No. I feel like voice actors give a different performance based on the race all the time.
But if you have a game that's not about the player character's performance, it's not going to be that much of a difficulty.
I think you're limiting yourself too much in that case.
I think doing the inverse would make it extremely illogical of adding new races. In terms of also going back and re-recording things for that actor.
Maybe. I don't know.
What is it you want, Boots? I'm confused. What,
I think so. Kroof is saying that he thinks that there's going to be maybe 4, let's say, voices per that you're available to all characters, whether they're Asura, human, whatever, or Kodan. And they'll just put modulations like a filter on top of them if it's an Asura versus a Kodan. And
it's just voice acting, yeah. I mean, they just get different voice actors.
No, not different voice actors. The same voice actor, different filter. He's saying, and it's going to be the same voice performance for an Asura versus a Kodan with just a different filter on it, because he's saying that the lines that they're going to be given to say in the story are not going to be important. Basically, it's going to be more along the lines of reacting to things happening around you versus actually having lines to decide what we're going to be doing.
It really depends. I mean, you can be both. To be fair, you can have less voice actors.
That's why I say I think it's too limiting if you do it that way. And once you start doing it that way, you can't change it that easily.
It depends how much they alter the voice as well, because technology nowadays is pretty wild. Whereas, like, if you play an Elder Scrolls game, there's about 1 million different characters with the same voice. It's just the same guy with a filter.
But do you think like if your character was an Asura versus a Norn, let's say an Asura versus a Char, if we're relating it to Guild Wars 2, like, do you think Blish talking like Britlock makes sense? Like the way he's speaking? It only works if they don't say anything important.
What do you mean by way he's speaking? Do you mean like the words they are choosing to say, or the actual vocal sound of it?
No, not the vocal sound. The way they are saying the lines. There's much more to a voice acting performance than just the vocal sound.
Yeah, like how you deliver. The delivery.
Yeah, of course it would be different. Yeah.
But when we see in the Commander, this is the thing, player character, we don't see variety in the actual racial.
There's only one commander voice for each.
Yeah, we do.
For each race.
Especially between Norn and Asura. It's very different.
There's a huge difference between Norn and Asura.
No. Because when you are doing a player character voice, usually direction and studio direction will limit the times when you deliver. It needs to be much more of a flat delivery, because the player character, you can't anticipate what the player character really wants for their character. You have to keep it more neutral. Yeah. So in voice acting and in studio delivery, they don't want you to over enunciate something unless it's in explicit direction in the actual script. So the player character in Guild Wars 2 does not have drastic variety in delivery across the different races. The sound of it is different because they're different voice actors, but the actual character behind it is all the same.
I don't think that's true. I think
it is 100% true in terms of the back end, like how you have to deliver a player character voice.
But it doesn't.
They all are different people.
Don't forget that Kroof has actual experience doing this.
They all or like research, but they all have different voices. So each person will deliver something differently. But the intent has to be neutral delivery or flat, unless otherwise in the script, where it's like, this is the moment where the player commander gets angry, and then everyone, because they're all different, there's so many people that voice the player characters, it will sound different, but the intention in terms of the written script is all the same.
And you don't think that a actor portraying a Char is trying to do something different than an actor playing a Asura getting angry?
They're doing the same thing.
Okay.
They will have a different voice, but the character
I understand what you're saying, that as a commander, as the main player character,
the lines are the same though,
because it's an MMO, like a single player game.
The lines are the same.
It's
not in Guild Wars 2, at least.
90% of the time they're the same. But what I'm trying to say is that...
Oh, I'm thinking about the personal story. Of course, they're not the same.
Yeah. For
That's-
no, personal story is obviously very different.
Yeah.
But for a single player game, not an MMO, obviously the main character is going to have their own identity, blah blah blah.
Sure.
Unless it's your own character, I guess, that you make and that has like, I'm thinking like Mass Effect, that they have their own identity, regardless of MMO, you want to be more neutral, obviously, because you're trying to the player playing it is trying to put themselves into the character.
Yeah.
Right. It's trying to reflect yourself. But regardless of that, when you are a person picking a race,
Sure.
you're picking an Asura, you're picking a Char, you're picking a human, and yes, you want the human to be a reflection of you and more neutral in its tone and delivery, but if you're picking an Asura, you want it to be an Asura who may be more neutral in tone. You want it to be an Asura, and an Asura is an Asura.
But you have a very specific idea of what that Asura would sound like. I would have a very different idea of what that Asura would sound like.
But they're still an Asura.
They're still an Asura, but even I would say Vlox, in terms of its voice and his voice,
Completely different
Vlox
to any Asura
is
ever
not an
had.
Asura voice that I would ever anticipate.
It's much more.
He's
it's
a
much less
character.
Asura. It's much less Asura than.
I think if anything,
all other
it would be
Asura,
more
but-
human. Like his
Yeah, it does
vocal
sound more
profile
human.
and delivery is so much more human. Vlox is not an Asura
Even
voice, but
kind
he's
of
an Asura.
Norny.
Mhm.
Kind of Norny as well.
Yeah,
You found an
it's-
exception.
but we've seen on many instances, even in Gen 3 Wilds, how there is in terms of a
Rox
model
isn't very cherry.
in terms of a char, yeah, and even between like male and female in Gen 3 Wilds, there's a female model, but it has a much more of a masculine voice. So there's there have so many variations in regards to what we anticipate. But then again, these are for outside characters. I think with the player character, when we're all objectively, Guild Wars 2 has 10 different actors playing one character, which is why I don't think you need such a variety in a modern game where you could just simplify it. 4 actors, various vocal pitches, and then also filters for those
Well, I mean,
specific
the reason why
species.
they also do that is because if they've got one person in the studio, they only have to pay for a certain amount of days or hours that they're hired for. Whereas if you get someone else, then you have to pay for travel, you have to pay for everything else, and then you have to pay for their day and the hours doing that. Obviously, they've probably got the money for this because they're being invested in NC Soft. But honestly, we just don't know how they're going to do this. Like, I mean, why is it?
Yeah.
Are you worried, Boots, about something about like losing individuality?
I think
Identity for
no.
each character or something, or is like
Well, yes, I definitely think that if you're just putting a filter on the same voice for 4 different races, you're losing something.
I mean, they're going to
definitely
do.
think
It's
that.
going to be done in a way which they have to, like they
Oh,
are
so this
going to
is all
have to
conjecture.
enunciate. Yeah.
I know.
There is-
I know.
This is
There
all
difference,
this is
right?
hypothesizing.
The lines will be the
So
same.
everyone
but
in chat.
They will deliver it. I believe they will deliver it. They do deliver it very differently, especially in Guild Wars 2.
So Kroof, you're absolutely right. It would be much more economical and much quicker to be able to create content the way you're saying.
Future proofing as well. Yeah.
Future proofing as well. But I think you lose too much if you do it that way. I think you lose too much in terms of the feeling of your character. And also I think you lose too much of your ability to write the character going forward as well. Because if you are limiting yourself to just having the character be a bystander all the time, you're not going to be able to give it any kind of shining moment in the future.
Well, that wouldn't be so much on the vocal performance. That would be on the writing team.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Of course, they're both. It's both.
and direction.
It is
direction as
definitely
well.
the writing team, but it's also the vocal performance.
But this is in Guild Wars 2, it's like I don't
Like maybe they'll get the same actor to
I don't
do
see
it 4
why it's
different ways.
so
Not
jarring,
one single
because
way and then
in
filter it.
Guild Wars 2, like once again there are 10 actors all playing the same character. So
Okay, so hold on. I think you're
that's
right.
why I guess I don't
think
I
10
don't
actors is
I
too
don't
many
feel
We're really going on
there
this one,
is-
aren't we, everyone?
I know. I guess that's why I don't feel like there is. I'm more so interested in the text of the character. The voice is a vehicle for the story of the character.
Yeah.
It can be more than that when it's given the opportunity to really shine. But at the end of the day, I view it as a vehicle for the story. So you have 10 people doing one character. So
Uh-huh.
I never really think I have to go play this story on a Norn to see how different it feels, because it
Right,
will
but that's
ultimately
not
feel
that's
the
not what we're
same.
talking about, though. We're talking about someone
don't
who
know,
did choose their
I'm
character,
not sure if,
and
Kroof,
then it's
if
going
I
to feel a
agree
little
with
bit
that.
off.
I
It's going to feel a little bit off if it's a human voice
I
doing
think-
with a little.
I think that in Guild Wars 2 there is a very big difference because I play
Only
I
when
play
the
an
story
Asura
calls for it.
and a
There-
Norn. I don't know. No, I'm not sure I agree with
Only
that.
when the written story is calling for it. The Heart of Thorns experience with the Sylvari is very different than any of the other races, but that's because the story is written for that, not
gonna say
because
this.
the voice actors decided
Yeah,
to
but
do
like
it. They were
the-
given the script.
No,
I'm gonna
but
say
like
this.
in my experience of like playing an Asura and then playing a Norn as a main character, and then also playing a Charon on the stories, there are these noises and different things which are made and added, obviously, which obviously add individuality. But I do feel like there's obviously it's going to be very much the same. It has to be because you're all going down the same line. It has to be very linear.
Yeah.
But there is a really distinct definition between each voice, which is so well done. And I think that when I play an Asura, even though I may be saying the same thing, which is just kind of what they do, it's just the work, which is why I'm confused about why we're talking about this so much. It's just like, I
Because
do
I
feel
think in
the
Guild Wars
difference.
3, we're not going to have the depth and breadth of voice acting that we get in Guild Wars 2.
I think you're right because of probably
Can that be a
probably
mistake?
there's
For the player
there's-
character, and I don't think it's a mistake.
I think
I think
there's
it would be.
probably lessons learned during Guild Wars 2. I think they're going to take some lessons into heart, and probably working with 10 different voice actors it is probably very difficult to manage.
I mean, I don't
for
think they're going to
each-
have individual voices for like a different person for each voice. I think that would
So-
be ridiculous. Like that would be.
But exactly.
that would be
So
wild.
so
Yeah.
that's why I think it's more likely, rather than have 10 individual voice actors for 10 different characters,
Mm.
have less voice actors, but have them do different performances for the different races.
Yeah, and this could be why they do it.
I mean, yeah, they could do that,
sure.
but yeah, I mean, that would be if that would be the answer to it. But that's why I just was like, they already put vocal filters over the performance for like female Char,
Ram.
so just that would be an option exclusive for that species, that when you create that
Yeah.
character, you have that distinct vocal tone and grit with that species.
Yeah, you'll just need 4 really talented voice actors, which is just call me. I could do it.
Let's get the Lightbringers.
Easy peasy. With enough voice filters, I could do anything.
Damn, looking at the character voices that you've got. You got like a wild amount.
And you have to
of
also think
people.
about other languages as well.
Mm,
It's
Yeah,
not just
a lot of
English.
people to be
that's true.
hired. For
I could
sure.
I
speak
think-
French.
And once again, for future proofing additional races, you would not want to go through that headache of having to have 2 additional voice actors for one character, a male and a female version. I think
Yeah. You would
having
see- you would
2
ask
per
if- you would ask if
category.
This one voice actor could talk like birds.
It really depends on their focus and where they want to spend that money. Because they could absolutely do that if that's what they want to do.
My bet is that this story will not focus on the player character. We'll have voice lines. But with the
We are going to
description
be
of
more of
Guild
a
Wars
side
3,
piece compared to where we are with Guild Wars
Side
2.
piece.
well, maybe that's side
Absolutely.
piece, yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to
Even
be
on the
part
website.
Of, yeah.
Even
we
on the
can-
website, it says you play solo or with friends and alongside a cast of colorful and like NPC characters.
Yeah.
I don't think the story is going to be, it's going to be maybe more like Guild Wars 1, where the player character has like a couple lines in a cutscene or something, but it's ultimately about the other NPCs in the world.
I think that's,
I
think that's on the money, that one.
I think that there's a happy middle to be had. I think we don't have to be the commander but we also don't have to be the side piece.
We could be a lieutenant. Okay, so we've been going on about this for a while. What else is there we can talk about in terms of the code? And I think
Now, for the Kodan, do you think they will match what we've heard with the Lowland Kodan in terms of their
Boys.
in not just the player character, but just other characters? Do you think they would have that gravelly Lowland stoic alder?
My forebears think that that's
Depends.
probably what's going to happen.
I think the more like feminine voice will be different. I think that may be like, you know, because we hear them and they sound more kind of like they are deeper, but like more like
Waiting sorrow.
yeah. I think we're gonna have a little bit more variation of that, especially if we see difference of ages as well. I'm hoping we'll see different ages and they'll be reflected in the voice, but they'll have to be lower because of the assumption that, you know, being a big creature, you know, having a high pitched voice doesn't really fit. I think. Well, I don't know. It depends what it is, I guess. But normally, like, the bigger they are, like, the deeper it is, or the slower it is, right? So there's going to be an intentionality of pace, depending, I think, on how old they are as well. Age always takes a.
It would be funny if, as a Kodan player character, you respond to everything really slowly. And it's just like if you're speed running the game, it's like,
that's right.
Oh, this is not the pick.
Like when I started reading that, I was just like at the beginning, it's just like
so funny.
originating. You're just like you get into it, right? You're just like, yeah. They're slow, like bears aren't necessarily fast until they need to run after something or run away from something. That's when they get fast. So it's like they are quick, but they don't have to be quick. That's the thing about bears necessarily as well. So they are very methodical, but they're also very curious creatures.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I thought that was cats.
I mean, most creatures are curious because that's how they survive, but because they have to be. The bears really go for it. They're not really afraid of going into a house and like pulling shit apart because they're huge, so they can be a lot braver. Whereas, like if you're a smaller creature, then you have to be, very cautious and careful and go in night and whatever. Whereas Kodan would be like, yeah, they go fuck. Anyway.
I'm excited about the Kodan, and I think keeping the religion and spirituality of the Kodan is actually super important. And I'm happy they went with this over the Lowland Kodan, who were distant from Koda. I think that this creates a more dynamic species with like a lot of history and not just being like, got Koda, whatever. So I'm excited to see what they do specifically with these magical entities of the 6 human gods, the Veil, and maybe even Koda.
It'd be really cool.
I do wonder though, like if you don't want to play a religious character, do you not choose a Koda because of that? Because it at least all the Koda in Or, you would think in this case, are at least religious curious, because
it depends what you think of religion, though, because technically, like, humans are also very religious in the game. And, like, there's an alignment. There's an alignment. And spirituality is different to religion. And then you think about, like, also technology and magic. Like, because you could say magic is like a religion because of your belief in it. So it's more of like a system. So if you think about a bit of systems as well. And
I understand. It's just because the Kodan who are in Or are Kodan who left Janthier because they either heard or are thinking it's possible that Kodan's asking them to be in Or.
Yeah, it's a calling. So it's like, what I like to think of it is like meaning. Like we all strive to find meaning. And I think the voice sounds like and feels like meaning as well, and as well as a literal voice and something which transformed them to become Kodan in the first place.
They do mention that over the 100 years, there are, a couple generations who have been more laxed in Koda's will and Koda's mission, how that's also faltering, even in Or. So it doesn't seem like every single Kodan is going to be at the level of what we would expect the Northern Kodan to be like.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you're going to go and join like a human
Affiliated.
form guild, there's going to be some crossover of like, oh, there's these gods as well, and like they're not from here. I'm assuming they know that.
Yeah.
And like,
That's
what does that
thing.
mean in terms of questioning the voice? Because I think there's going to be something. There's going to be a lot of like, because of the Lowland Kodan and you know the split. I think there's going to be a lot of questioning of the voice and of their mission, potentially within stories that we either see or within our own character. I think that would be really cool.
It was kind of cool to see maybe a snippet in the history of the Veil Wardens as well, how they were not welcoming to anybody and they like closed themselves off quite severely until they were like, oh, we actually have like 5 people left in the guild.
Yeah, we got to recruit.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
We're like, Kodan, you seem to want to really be a part of this for a while. Sure, come on in.
Yeah, it was a very insular guild before. It was.
I mean, it sounds very human.
Which
like
makes me excited to see
IRL friends.
Which the Veil Warden could be even more gray in that regard as well, where we could see some human Veil Wardens who are like the leaders they still have some of that old ways of being like
suspicious, kind of.
Kodan, yeah, like what are you doing here? Why are you here?
I think we're gonna see themes of racism, sexism, like or loads of stuff like that in this game.
A little bit of it.
I think we're gonna see
Probably.
lots of LGBTQI plus like kind of different, like we're gonna see loads of those kinds of stories because of kind of a lot of what Guild Wars 2 has done, like just hints of. I'd love to see more stories like that. To be fair.
I think they'll definitely be within the game. I don't think
it won't be a huge focus, maybe. But like can you like
we'll have some side quests and like characters where we get to have that moment to shine.
Yeah.
But it makes me hopeful that the story will be a dynamic story of conflict, of the uncomfortable elements of life that create conflict. That's how you get the story kind of going.
I want those choices that we had in Guild Wars 2 at the beginning. I think it would make it way more difficult, but I would like some choices to maybe kid shape my character a little bit, but I don't think that's going to happen.
A couple lore friendly, like what type of Kodan are you? Like you value X, just to have in your character's personal journal. That'd be kind of nice, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And then bring back the courage, ferocity.
Oh yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. Yeah.
Wait,
that's kind of what
they could have another stab at that. Have it be more of like an NPC system where like maybe they have like they have like heroes again, and you are able to recruit like NPC allies depending on how they view you and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, if there's going to be more,
you have to be like a ruthless ass if you want like one of the best heroes in the game.
If you want like a necromancer, you have to kind of like do some shady stuff and like steal some like grave rob somebody for them.
I mean, absolutely, why not? I mean,
that's fun. Role play. I want to be able to do bad stuff too.
I mean, I think that would be cool, whether or not if it's the scope of the game. But if you think about it, if you're going to have less players in areas, then you can afford to go down. Yeah, I don't know if games they're trying to do that though anymore. That's the thing with this kind of with more players. Well, it depends on the multiple player area of things though, like individual solo stories, sure, but like within a multiplayer game, I mean, even just playing like Soulframe right now, I know that's a lot less. You're going to see a lot less people in that, but like, it's just very like linear. I don't know. I mean, I hope it's not. I hope we do have choices. I want them.
I think they are going to have a pretty big emphasis on like player characters. It's in all of their descriptors for Steam. It's on their main website. How they have like an emphasis on NPCs as well, and like the colorful cast of characters that they have. So I think the story will be more linear. I think that's also like a part of the evolution of an MMO, like having those major social elements, but still having a very strong backbone of a linear story to tell.
Absolutely. Okay. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we leave for today? I think we're pretty much there.
I think we have to all agree on exactly how many voice actors they're going to have.
Yeah. I have the number. I wrote it down.
Okay, good.
For the player character specifically.
Yeah. I think the human player character is going to have 8 voice actors specifically only for the human.
Hey, they can have 5. They can have 6. I don't. Whatever.
I think it's
Do
like,
we think
who
the
knows?
player Kodan is going to run up walls like a human on just their legs, or do you think they're going to use all 4s?
Well, I think even the human had
That's
all
a good
4,
question.
was on all 4.
Like they look like they lost their balance and
I
kind
think
of like
where
okay,
they kind of
grabbed on.
well, I think they use their hands as like something to increase momentum, because if you push yourself up.
yeah.
When you wall run
Human
as
was
a
mostly just running
yeah,
I
when
think
you
they're gonna
wall
roll-
run,
get
when you
into
do
a ball
parkour, you use your
and
hands
roll up
as
the
well.
hill.
a little bit, yeah. But do you think it will be predominantly like on all 4s?
I think it'll be
I think
very similar.
they're gonna get into a ball and roll up the hill. Actually,
roller beetle, roller
Yeah.
bear.
roll the bear.
Maybe. I think what it might be, I think what you're going to see is the difference is that a human would be very agile, whereas a Kodan would be more like kind of like jump onto the wall and then kind of
Leap.
like kind of that kind of thing, which is more like maybe not leap, but more like less movement.
I do wonder
like
if
in
they're
terms
gonna
of, like-
change the movement styles.
They have to. I
Oh,
would say
yeah,
they
they
should.
need- you
I'm
gotta-
sure they're gonna
right.
change the animations,
Oh,
but are
yeah,
they gonna
yeah.
change the actual, physics of the movements for the different races?
That could be very interesting, actually.
With the
Boots.
wall running, I think you
Yeah.
have to, otherwise it's
Like
just going
the
to look
different
weird.
race you play is like a different mount almost.
Yeah.
That would be very bizarre, but really
It would.
cool. I don't know if they'd go that far.
Yeah, I
but-
think
I mean,
they
they're different
probably
size mounts
wanna
in Guild
shy
Wars
away
2.
from that.
They're just bigger
They-
or smaller, depending on what you will.
They nerfed the racial elites skills quite a bit, so I don't know if they're gonna actually like ingrain racial dependency.
I don't
on
think we're going to have
movement.
racial skills.
You
I
have
don't
to
think that's gonna
relearn
be
your
it.
controls and momentum system because
Yeah.
you chose a Kodan versus an Asura and
Racial
you made
skills
this
are
other
going to be
character.
absolutely pointless. Unless it's like something you put points in.
I'm
Like a-
hopeful they.
I don't know.
I'm hopeful to see like the Asura just like almost straight up running up a wall. Don't even use their hands. They just like chakra control into their feet, and they're so small and light that they just
Yeah, they go
zoom
like
straight
Oh
up.
my
they go
God, that's
perpendicular.
gonna
to
be
the
Yes,
wall, like-
they're just running perpendicular up. I need that chakra. I've been watching a lot of Naruto recently too, so it's fresh on the mind.
I wonder if there's going to be any like porting instead or something like that, maybe for different races, depending on what they're like. Because if you can't really imagine all of these races doing this, I don't think. Maybe
Could.
I don't know.
because they
A
have
dwarf,
they have the
like in the
magic.
future, if we had a dwarf doing it, I'm not sure.
Well, they're only
I
doing it
mean-
because they have the magic, like the
Yeah, I
spirit
know.
magic.
I know. Yeah,
We
yeah.
as humans can't run up a wall. We
No,
saw it.
no. That's what I mean. But like in terms of like using the spirit differently rather than just running up the wall. Maybe it's a
Oh,
bit
the animation
different.
will be different.
Like the I have this
That's why I
idea of
think,
a
like,
Kodan doing it.
The Kodan, it won't be as much like a straight run up. It'll be like a
I think
like
it'll be
pulling
very
yourself
like
up with your claws and
Yeah,
it's
it's
more
gonna look cool.
muscly.
Yeah, and Asura's just gonna be doing cartwheels up the wall.
Yeah. Just
Well-
speed running up a wall.
in on that note, we're gonna climb our way out of this podcast.
Oh,
No.
No, what? Today, like we're gonna be back.
Ugh.
we're not
Oh,
going
okay.
anywhere. Like
I
we're
thought you were canceling the podcast.
Jesus Christ, no! I mean, bloody hell! Like,
I
we-
just love talking about Guild Wars 3. I can go on
Yeah.
for hours about this. The possibilities, because we know so little.
it's fun.
That's the best thing, isn't it? When you
It
don't know
is.
anything about it.
Y'all, this is
speculation.
chat. This is literally peak. We will never have this little knowledge ever again.
About
Because the
game.
moment we get more information,
Well,
we get
more.
we're no
We
longer
got more.
just words.
You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
say facts and it's boring.
We are it's like the philosophy of the people in the cave. We
That's
are
right.
currently in the cave looking at shadows on the wall.
Exactly, which is awesome.
It's so fun.
which is the point of that philosophy,
Well,
right?
I mean,
that's what
the
they're trying to
thing
get
is-
across. That watching the shadows on the wall is the best part.
Yes.
The thing is, when you don't have any information, though, you don't get to wonder as much sometimes because you need clues to get you to the next thing to keep
Yeah,
the
That's
curiosity
why we have
going.
shadows on the wall.
Shadows, yeah.
Who else loves the allegory of the cave?
Yeah,
Just keeps going. Yeah.
yeah. Don't exit the cave. Don't do it.
Don't. Because once you
No,
exit the
'cause you'll
cave,
get
you wonder who's
blinded.
up in the sky.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true. Retina. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so Thank you for joining us and watching the Lightbringers Guild Wars 2 podcast. If you enjoyed this, make sure you could like, comment, subscribe, do all the things wherever you are. Write a review for us if you can. Chuck us 5 stars if you want to. Thank you for the comments as well. Greatly appreciate it. People are really engaging with these podcasts, and they're not just of the ones that are very recent. They're still commenting on all of the previous ones as well. So please keep doing that. Really, really appreciate it. But do also share it with your friends. Like it. It really helps the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. Please go and check out Kroof and Boots. All their bits and bobs are in the description below. You can find their YouTube channels and their Twitch streams if they stream, as well as support links to buy the game through their channels as well if you do want to support them monetarily, as well as myself. Otherwise, we've been the Lightbringers Guild Wars 2 podcast, Jebro, Kroof, and Boots. Awesome co-hosts on this, and the nameless Kodan, which I didn't give a name apparently. Bob the Kodan.
Yeah, that looks like a Bob.
I think so.
The best thing about this podcast was how heated it got about one of maybe the least important aspects of this.
Yeah, you two just went hard on that.
Hey, you're the one who said least important, so I don't know why you got so heated about it, but
It's very important.
right, Boots.
It's
so not
seemed pretty
important, but I
important to you,
am
though. Okay, folks. Thanks so much for watching. You take care. Have a good rest of your day, week, month, year. If you don't see us soon, we'll be back next week. 12 p.m.-ish Pacific. Twitch.tv/Jebro talking about the Asura. Hopefully, probably, maybe.
Yeah. And peak games come. Hope anyone going to Gamescom is going to have fun.
We get news.
Any news about any other games as well. It's exciting times for gaming.
Indeed. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.